Hello everyone. Tonight we're going to Corsican knot, the vacation kind. But the 18th century version, where goats outnumber people, revolutions simmer in the air. And a little boy named Napoleon Bonaparte is about to be born into chaos. The wind smells like salt, gunpowder, and someone's overcooked fish stew. You probably won't survive this, but don't worry, you're not alone. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I'm doing here. Also, drop your city and local time in the comments. I want to know who's still awake with me now. Turn down the lights, turn on the fan to some soothing background music, and enjoy your evening ride together. You're in Corsica, 1769. The French have just taken over the island, and everyone is mad about it, especially the Bonapartes. You're dragging your tiny sandaled feet through the dirt streets of Ajaccio, right behind Mama Letizia, who has a serious glare and another baby on the way. Napoleon is her second son, born into a family that still thinks of itself as though the French are now technically in charge. Yeah, awkward. Napoleon, even as a toddler, isn't cute in the usual sense. He's intense, like suspiciously intense. While other kids are stealing fruit and arguing about whose dad can wrestle a sheep, Napoleon is standing on a hill, watching clouds move like armies across the sky. He's stubborn, too. One time, when told he couldn't have a second piece of bread, he staged a one-boy hunger strike. It lasted 6 hours. Legendary, as he grows up, his dad, Carlo Bonaparte, kind of like a broke lawyer with aristocratic dreams, gets Napoleon into a fancy French school on a scholarship. It's kind of like shipping your wild island kid to Hogwarts, but instead of wands. They're training with sabers and geometry textbooks, but Corsican politics aren't done with him. There's this local hero named Paoli who's fighting French rule. Little Napoleon writes essays praising him, until Paoli calls Napoleon's dad a traitor. Yeah, suddenly, Paoli goes from hero to villain in young Napoleon's brain. You can almost hear the betrayal music swelling in the background. Historians are still debating whether Napoleon's intense nationalism for France was genuine or just super convenient for career goals. What we do know is this: he never forgot Corsica. Even when he became emperor, he kept a small Corsican chest by his bedside. It smelled of pine, wood, and homesickness, and no joke, his childhood sunscreen. Likely olive oil mixed with, wait for it, crocodile poop, ancient Roman style, SPF 0, but plenty of confidence. So there he is, a boy born into feuds, French colonialism, and too much sun, dreaming already of power. He's short, yes, but he's just getting started. You're 12 years old, and you've just arrived in mainland France from Corsica wearing homemade shoes, speaking French with an Italian accent thick enough to slice cheese with, and carrying a suitcase full of books and teenage resentment. To Brienne-le-Château, Napoleon's military academy. It's cold, gray, and the cafeteria serves soup that even the rats won't touch. Everyone thinks you're weird. You think everyone else is stupid. Classic gifted kid energy. Here's a fun fact: Napoleon was so broke, his uniform looked like it had been ironed with a rock. Kids called him the Little Corsican. He called them future failures. Not to their faces, though he was smart enough to bide his time, and when that time came, he would crush them. In chess, because that's the thing. Napoleon wasn't just angry, he was brilliant. He read everything: Voltaire, Rousseau, and especially history. His favorite bedtime story, Julius Caesar crossing the Rubicon. Other kids had sleepovers. Napoleon plotted military coups in Latin. He once dueled a classmate over an Institutius, an actual duel, with swords and everything. Napoleon got a cut, on the hand one anyway, and went right back to reading Tacitus. Casual, he also developed this weird obsession with snow forts. During winter, he'd organize full-scale snowball battles with war rules, formations, and tactical retreats. People got hurt, teachers got annoyed. Napoleon got promoted. One time, during a particularly intense snow campaign, he dug trenches so deep that a teacher slipped in and sprained an ankle. Napoleon's punishment: writing an essay on appropriate wartime conduct. He turned it into a 12-page tactical manifesto. Historians are still debating whether young Napoleon's early military genius was instinct or learned behavior. But either way, he had one goal: get out of poverty, and make himself important. Maybe take revenge on all the kids who laughed at his accent. Here's your one odd detail. Napoleon hated music. Like he once called it, pointless noise for fools. Which is ironic, because France at the time was all about powdered wigs, opera, and waltzes. He preferred silence, steel, and strategy. Basically, if Spotify had existed, he'd have used it only to stream thunderstorm sounds while planning. Troop movements, he graduated early, by the way, at 16, assigned to the artillery, because that's where the math nerds go to blow things up. So now, you're standing in your first uniform, still short, still intense, and finally holding real power. You're not anyone yet, but oh, you will be. You're 24 years old and bored out of your military mind when the French Revolution explodes like someone lit a barrel of gunpowder with a democracy matchstick. Everyone's picking sides, heads are literally rolling, and somehow you get sent to the besieged port city of Toulon. Toulon's a mess British ships in the harbor, royalists inside the walls, and a bunch of generals trying to fight using vague inspirational quotes and absolutely no plan. You're about to walk into history like you own the place. Napoleon's not even the top. Commander, he's just the guy in charge of artillery. But guess what? Artillery is everything in this siege. And you, being the tactical gremlin you are, immediately spot a weakness. If you can position cannons just right, you can blast the British fleet and force them to flee. No one listens. So you draw maps, you do math, you make diagrams that basically scream, please use your brain. Eventually, they cave. You set up your cannons in secret overnights, some uphill, some hidden. It's like Home Alone, but with live ammunition. And when you open fire, boom, British panic. Ships burned, French troops pour in Toulon Falls. One of Napoleon's officers during this siege was a teenage Joachim Murat, later marries Napoleon's sister and becomes King of Naples. Yep, just imagine. Your brother-in-law starts out as the guy who helps you haul cannons through the mud. Family goals. The result of Toulon. You get promoted to brigadier general at age 24. A general, you're still not tall enough to reach the top shelf, but now you can legally command thousands of men to take it down for you. But it wasn't just tactics, it was vision. You saw what others didn't. You guessed where the enemy would move before they moved. Historians are still debating whether this brilliance was genius or pure luck, but either way, Toulon made your name echo through the barracks like a prophecy, of course. There were costs. Hundreds died in the assault. Streets ran red. The British Navy retaliated elsewhere. And you were just getting used to the idea that strategy wins wars, but it also comes with ghosts. You walked into Toulon as a nobody with good aim. You left a living legend. And you kept the uniform you wore that day for the rest of your life, mud stains and all. And if you're wondering, yes, you also got your first real war wound, a bayonet scrape across the leg. You limped, but made it look cool. Paris, 1795. You're 26, out of work, and living in a borrowed coat that smells like mildew and disappointment. The revolution is eating itself. There are riots in the streets, and your career wants flaming hot postalones. Now, somewhere between who and didn't he get arrested once? Yeah, Royalists are rising up with pitchforks, pistols, and plans to storm the very heart of revolutionary power. Who do they call? Not the but rich provinces. Await you. Classic Napoleon. Threaten a little, promise a lot. Your first campaign, the Italian campaign of 1796, is a masterclass in speed, surprise, and let's face it, serious main character energy. You move faster than the Austrians can blink. You split their forces with sudden mountain crossings. You fight over bridges, rivers, fields. You win and win and win. Battles like Lodi, Arcole, and Rivoli become more than names. They become echoes of thunder across Europe. Odd detail. You cross the Alps riding not a white stallion, like in the paintings, but a small, sturdy mule. Less majestic, more practical. That's the thing about you. You're dramatic in theory, but terrifyingly efficient in practice. Your soldiers start calling you the little corporal, not as an insult, but as a weird term of affection. You march with them, eat their rations, dodge bullets next to them. Once during a battle, your boots filled with blood from a blister. You didn't even flinch. Your enemies. They call you a demon in human form. You call them delayed. You start sending back trophies, art, and crates of cash to France. The government suddenly loves you. Historians are still debating whether your success in Italy was pure genius or just the collapse of the old European order. Probably both. Certain is this: you rewrote the rules. Before you, generals waited. After you, they attacked. But it's not just war. You sign peace treaties, you redraw maps, you write letters to Josephine pages of poetic, borderline clingy longing. Half of them she doesn't read. She's busy with, well, not you. Still, none of that matters. Not now, because you stand at the edge of a valley one morning, mist swirling around your boots, and you realize you're not a soldier anymore. You're a storm, and the world, it's starting to take cover. Now, slow down. Breathe. You're lying in your bed now, not in a tent, not on a battlefield, no cannon fire, just the quiet hum of your fan. The wind outside might be dreaming of mountains. You've followed the footsteps of a boy from Corsica who turned mud into medals and books into bullets. Tomorrow, he'll return from Egypt. Tomorrow, he'll crown himself emperor. But tonight, he's still young, still rising, still hungry. And so are you for sleep, for dreams, for legends. Good night. Little strategist, sleep well.